Picture the scene at Loftus Road. It is the 90th minute. The board has gone up. The home crowd is roaring because they think they have done enough. They think the points are safe. But then something shifts in the air. It is not just a change in momentum. It is a change in the very atmosphere of the stadium. You look at the players in red and suddenly the fatigue is gone. The doubt is gone. Instead, there is a look in their eyes that sends a shiver down the spine of the opposition. It is primal, it is dangerous, and as the gaffer, Phil Parkinson, described it perfectly in the aftermath of what I can only call absolute madness. He said his team didn't just hope for a goal, he said they smelt blood. That is the phrase that is going to define this weekend for Wrexham fans. We are not talking about a lucky deflection or a scrappy point salvaged on the road. We are talking about a predatory instinct that kicked in exactly when most teams would have folded. You are losing 2-1 in injury time in the Championship. The script says you go home with nothing. The script says you pack up, learn your lessons and move on. But this Wrexham side, under this ownership and this management, they do not read the standard script, do they? What happened in those final moments against QPR is not just football, it is a psychological study in belief. We are going to break down exactly how this unfolded, because the comments from Phil Parkinson after the match reveal so much about the DNA of this current squad. It is about how a red card, a moment of chaos and a refusal to settle turned a defeat into one of the most unbelievable victories we have seen in a long time. It's quiet, then it's chaotic, then it's euphoric. Let's get into the details of this incredible 3-2 turnaround.
Now, before we get to the fireworks at the end, we have to be honest about how this game started. This wasn't a walk in the park. Loftus Road is a tight, hostile ground, and Queen's Park Rangers came out with a game plan that for large parts of the match worked perfectly. We have to give credit where it is due to understand the scale of the comeback. In the opening period, QPR were on top. They were pressing, they were hungry, and they made life very difficult for the Red Dragons. Harvey Vale gave Rangers that early lead, and if we are analysing this objectively, Wrexham were on the ropes. You could see the championship quality in QPR's movement. They controlled the tempo, they won the second balls, and for the first 45 minutes, it looked like it was going to be one of those frustrating afternoons when nothing quite clicks. This is the reality of this division. You go away from home and you get punished for slow starts. Vale's goal was a wake-up call. It reminded everyone that despite the hype, despite the Hollywood story, on the pitch you have to earn every single yard. The gaffer was watching from the sidelines and you know his mind was racing. How do you change this? How do you get a foothold in a game where the opposition seems to have your number? The first half was a grind. It was about staying in the game, about not letting that 1-0 deficit turn into 2 or 3. And that is a crucial part of the clean sheet mentality, even when you concede. You stop the bleeding, you stay in the fight, because as long as it is just one goal, you are always one moment of brilliance away from turning the tide. And that is exactly what happened as we moved into the second half.
Whatever Phil Parkinson said in that dressing room at half-time, it worked. The Wrexham that came out for the second half was a different animal. We saw more urgency, more bite in the tackle. But more importantly, we saw quality. It is not good just running around. You need that touch of class to unlock a defence that is sitting on a lead. Enter Callum Doyle. This lad has been working hard, and to see him get his first goal for the club in such a crucial moment was massive. But let's look at the build-up, because Parkinson highlighted this specifically. It wasn't just a hit and hope, it was a brilliant shot from Tomo. Initially that's Elliot Lee or O'Connor depending on the lineup, but Parkinson referred to the initial strike forcing an incredible save from the keeper, Joe Walsh. The ball comes back out. Now this is where lesser teams panic. They snatch at the rebound. But watch the composure. Nathan Brody, gets on the ball. He doesn't just lash it, he plays in Callum Doyle. and Doyle, a centre-back, finds himself in the box with the composure of a striker. He gave the goalkeeper absolutely no chance. Parkinson said, "We know he's capable of that." That is high praise for a defender. It shows that this team is dangerous from all areas of the pitch. When your defenders are stepping up and finishing like that, it changes the dynamic of the match. It brought Wrexham back to 1-1. It silenced the home crowd for a moment. It felt like the momentum had swung completely. We were back in it. The away end was bouncing. But as we know, football has a nasty habit of kicking you when you think you are safe.
Just as Wrexham looked to be pushing on, just as we thought, right, we can go on and win this normally, the game took a dark turn. Steve Cook, the QPR defender, pops up late on. It's the kind of goal that usually kills a team's spirit. It made it 2-1 to the hosts. Look at the clock when that went in. We are deep into the game. The legs are heavy, the lungs are burning. To concede late like that, after fighting so hard to get back to 1-1, it is demoralising. It appeared for all intents and purposes to have secured the points for QPR. You could see the QPR players celebrating like they had won the World Cup. They thought it was done. The fans thought it was done. And honestly, most people watching thought it was done too. It is the Championship. Teams that go 2-1 up in the dying stages usually know how to manage the game. They head to the corner flag, they waste time, they break up the play. But this is where the narrative shifts from a standard match report to something extraordinary. Parkinson spoke about the feeling in the team. He didn't sense heads dropping, he didn't see players pointing fingers or blaming each other for the Cook goal. He saw a group of lads who were frustrated, yes, but not defeated. There is a resilience in this squad that you cannot buy in the transfer market. It is forged in the National League battles, honed in the promotion fights. But even with that resilience, they needed a spark. They needed a catalyst. And that catalyst arrived in the 90th minute, not from a Wrexham player, but from a moment of madness from the opposition.
The 90th minute. The board is about to go off for stoppage time. Amadou Mbengwe, the QPR defender, gets sent off. Now Parkinson was honest in his assessment. He said, "I don't know whether that impacted it or not regarding the final result. But let's be real, it changed everything." When Mbengwe walked, the psychology of the match flipped instantly. QPR went from managing the game to panic mode. They were down to 10 men for the most critical minutes of the match. For Wrexham, it was like a green light. It was the signal. Parkinson said, "You felt that we were the team most likely to go and win it." That is a bold statement to make when you're losing 2-1 with minutes left. But the red card created space. It created confusion in the QPR backline. They had to reshuffle right when they needed stability. This is the blood Parkinson was talking about. When an opponent shows weakness, when they lose a man, a top team doesn't just pass the ball around, they attack the jugular. The sending off disrupted QPR's shape, and Wrexham ruthlessly exploited that confusion. It wasn't about tactics anymore, it was about desire. It was about pouring bodies forward and daring QPR to stop them. The air inside Loftus Road changed from celebration to anxiety in a heartbeat, and Wrexham fed off that anxiety. So we are into injury time. QPR are down to 10. Wrexham are pouring forward. And then comes the moment of magic from Josh Windass. First of all, let's talk about the technique. Parkinson was absolutely glowing about this in his post-match interview. He said, "Josh, to keep that shot down and get over that ball was an incredible technique." We are talking about a high-pressure situation. The ball comes out from a corner, it is bouncing, it is awkward. Most players lean back and send that ball into row Z. We see it every week. But Windass, he kept his head, he got his body over the ball, he struck it with superb precision. A superb strike is how it was described, and rightly so. It flew into the net. 2-2. Now, watch the reaction.
This is the key. This is the we smelt blood moment. Parkinson pointed this out specifically. He saw how quickly we got the ball and the lads got back. They didn't run to the fans to celebrate the point. They didn't waste time hugging. They grabbed the ball out of the net and sprinted back to the centre circle. Why? Because a draw wasn't enough. They knew QPR were broken. They knew the 10 men were terrified. That visual of the players running back to restart the game is the defining image of this team's mentality. They didn't want a point, they wanted all three. And then, just 60 seconds later, 60 seconds, that is all it took. The game had barely restarted, the stadium was still buzzing from the equaliser, and Wrexham were already coming again. Ollie Rathbone, another substitute. The depth of this squad is frightening. He picks the ball up. He's 30 yards out in the 94th minute of the game. Most players would look for a pass. They would look to put it into the mixer. Not Rathbone, he backed himself. He unleashed a thumping right-footed strike. It was a rocket from 30 yards. The audacity to take that shot on in stoppage time is incredible. And when it hit the back of the net, absolute bedlam. 3-2. Parkinson couldn't hide his admiration for Rathbone. He noted that Rathbone has now smashed in his 5th goal in his past 10 appearances. That is a midfielder putting up striker numbers. What can I say about Ollie? His goals per minute is probably the top in the league, Parkinson said. That is the difference maker. Having players coming off the bench who are not just filling a gap, but are match winners. Rathbone saw the chaos, saw the keeper was rattled and took his chance. It was the perfect execution of that smelt blood instinct. They sensed the kill and they executed it with ruthless efficiency.
So, what does this mean for Wrexham? Phil Parkinson summed it up. We smelt blood. You can feel that as a team sometimes. That feeling is rare. It is the feeling of a team that refuses to be beaten. To go to Loftus Road, to go 2-1 down, to see the clock turn red, and to come away with a 3-2 victory is the stuff of champions. I am not saying we are winning the league today, but these are the moments you look back on at the end of the season. This wasn't just about 3 points, it was a statement to the rest of the championship. It says that Wrexham are never dead and buried. It says that if you give them a millimetre of hope, if you show a second of weakness, they will punish you. The red card helped, yes, but you still have to put the ball in the net. You still have to have the technique of Windass and the bravery of Rathbone. You still have to have the tactical setup from Parkinson to have those players on the pitch. It is a massive win, a huge 3 points on the road, and it proves one thing above all else: the Red Dragons have teeth, and when they smell blood, there is no stopping them. What a game, what a team, up the town.